Okay, I'm coming to you from the car. I'm in the car rider line, but I figured I'd jump on here because I wanted to talk about a topic that probably comes up in not just law school settings, but in life in general, right? I'm going to call this Car Chronicles. So I might do more of these as I've been in the car rider line waiting for him to pick up my son. But I wanted to talk about social capital, right? And the idea of elitism. I was reading somebody on LinkedIn, and I'll put the little clip from the post. It was a LinkedIn article about a young lady. She just graduated from law school, and she was talking about how she didn't appreciate or take advantage of the opportunities her mom provided for her, starting early as secondary schooling, to be surrounded by people who are able to help her, I guess, move up in life. And she was saying that she realized that she didn't take advantage of it the way she should have to make sure that she had things taken care of by the time she got out of law school. So I wanted to ask you the question, do you believe in, I guess it's kind of networking, but at a whole different level, when you talk about social capital? Is it worth more than what you know? Let's talk about it. Okay, so if you've been watching the channel, I talked to you about networking, and LinkedIn is one of those social networking platforms where you can connect with other professional, like-minded people and perhaps get job opportunities, just find people in your area to get advice, things of that nature, right? So I'm part of the LinkedIn community, and over the last 2 years, I've been even more active on the LinkedIn community. So if you're not already on LinkedIn and you're a professional, you're looking to move up in your world, whatever your world may be, whether it be legal or not legal related, check out LinkedIn and create your profile and kind of build who you want to be perceived as in the professional world, right? This is not Instagram, this is not Facebook, this is kind of a different hat. And to build that persona that you want people to perceive you as, right? Because that's all about, what people see about you online is the opinions they develop on you. It could be positive or negative, right? So what happened is the young lady on LinkedIn was talking about she had access to certain high-end or highly successful people while she was in secondary schools, and she really didn't network with them and kind of meet the requirements to be in that circle. And she realized what social capital is, right? So social capital is you have socialized with other people to the point where you can cash in on those things when needed, whether it be for a job, maybe it be for an opportunity to go to school, things of that nature. The social capital, it has actually a value, right? And I think people underestimate it. Yes, I think that having the ability to be knowledgeable about things is important, but the difference between whether you and somebody else get picked, I always say this, sometimes comes down to perhaps who you know or your personality, right? And I give the example of I worked for a judge, and it was several interns in the chambers at the time, and I ended up being selected as the judge's next judicial law clerk because I interacted with the administrative assistant, aka the secretary in the office. I was friendly. I kind of got along with everybody and seemed likable, right? So the judge was like, this person seems good, even though everybody looks the same on paper as far as grade wise and law review wise, check the boxes. It was something else that stood apart. And you see this happen. I know when the young lady posted this on LinkedIn, other people begin to comment yes, I went to school with such and such, and then when I went to apply for a job position, a judge position, a judicial clerk position, I end up knowing the person because I went to school with them, right? So that's the cashing in the social capital. What do you think about that? Do you think that's fair? It's almost like a form of nepotism, but it's almost like this is what you pay to be in certain circles, you pay to be in certain organizations, to hopefully not just help you, but also thinking about helping your children down the line because you have been a part of these things. Is it worth it? Is it worth your time? I know even people who don't even think that there's any kind of thing of social capital, give an example of fraternities, sororities, right? People who are a part of these sororities, fraternities, they're line sisters, they're part of this organization where it's kind of we all have a common mission. So if you see somebody who's your line sister or a part of your organization or a part of the fraternity, if you're a woman, the fraternity part of your organization, you're probably more likely to give them extra consideration because you're oh, they probably have the same kind of focus that I do, right? So that's at a small level, but once you start getting up into the higher levels, do people think of it as the same do people think of the same way? Because I know one thing I feel like I regret is not pledging any sorority. That's kind of like my thing. In undergrad, I went to basically a commuter undergrad, and the sorority that I wanted to join was not a big chapter there, and I basically was focused on going to classes and then going to work right after. And then I kind of regret not pledging. I like the mission of the sorority, but also because it's kind of like we're all a family, right? Everybody is part of this organization and we're doing things together. A lot of it is also volunteerism, giving back. And of course, you can do this without being in a sorority, which I already do, but also being a part of a larger group where you guys have that focus, I think is also big. Comment below if you're part of a sorority or fraternity and if you've used that social capital in the past for anything and if you find it to be worth it. So as a side note, as I was also looking at things about social capital, going to certain schools is considered having social capital. If you went to Ivy League school, it's part of a bigger organization where people, even if they didn't go to Ivy League school, they recognize, okay, you went to name Harvard school, right? Harvard Law School. They may put you on a pedestal, whether it's deserving or not, because you went to an Ivy League school. And that gave you social capital to perhaps get a job over somebody else. Certain firms are particular about that. But then it doesn't always have to be the case, right? If you are going into business for yourself, that doesn't really matter. If you're going into government has a variety of people from all different, and Ivy League is not necessarily the only school that they accept as far as letting people into the government. So think about it from that perspective, that I would be remiss if I didn't say that there was not a value to social capital. Now, does it make it fair for people? I mean, because I guess certain people wouldn't have the financial capabilities perhaps to go to a certain school or to be part of certain organizations, right? So then are they not given the same opportunity as somebody else? Is that fair? I would say I don't think it's fair, but I think that it's the reality of it, right? So finding other ways to be part of different organizations that are not necessarily have financial backings to them, right? So if it doesn't have you can volunteer for certain organizations and then be part of those. And if you don't have that social capital, you're gonna have some kind of different kind of hustle, right? It's one or the other. So not to say that just because you don't have the social capital, you can't be as successful, but you have to definitely find ways to hustle to get to that certain stage. What are ways, comment in the comment section, what are ways that you found that if you lack certain social capital, you made up for it in other ways? Comment below, I wanna know. I know I try to give my children the best foundation I can, and obviously it's not going to allow me to give them everything, but I think a strong enough foundation that they can be successful, and however they define successful, right? I don't want to say I want them to be any kind of profession. I want them to be successful. I want them to be self-sustaining adults who is a good person, right? And can self-sustaining, meaning can take care of themselves, so I wouldn't be responsible for them, and also a good person. And however that looks, I think is my definition of success. So I know people have different variations of it. We have some parents who are viewers on here. What do you think? Did you give your kids enough social capital to kind of make it, or foundation to make it? Or did you realize a little too late that, oh, I may not have given them as much as I should have? I mean, it's not necessarily regret, but it's also a learning experience, and to learn from it and hopefully do different. If you are watching as a parent who feels like their parents didn't give enough, are you doing something different with your own children? All right, that's all I have to say. This is today's first Car Chronicles. Let me know what you think, and perhaps I'll do another Car Chronicles and talk about law and order, or law and disorder, however you want to put it. All right, see you in the next video.